Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this session where we'll be talking about all things skilled volunteering. Whether or not volunteering is on your 2026 resolutions list, I hope today's session will answer any queries you might have on skilled volunteering and just really inspire you to take action and get involved with supporting the small charity sector. My name is Elspeth. For those of you that don't know me, I am a partnerships manager here at the Fore and I look after our pro bono programme. So this is a really vital part of our service to charities where we connect them with skilled volunteers within our network. I'm also joined here today by my lovely colleague Dia, and she'll be quizzing three of our brilliant volunteers on their experiences working with small charities and give you the chance to ask any questions you might have. But first, I'm going to give you a quick overview of who we are here at the Fore and some insights into skilled volunteering. So for those of you that might not know us, the Fore is the UK's only venture philanthropy fund, turbocharging the best small charities and social enterprises. We are also a registered charity ourselves. But what does this mean and why are we needed? Well, as we know, the UK faces immense challenges, whether that be homelessness or inequality, injustice, mental health or physical health, or the climate crisis. The list really does go on. And how on earth are we going to solve all of these issues? Well, the good news is small charities and social enterprises already have the answers. There are really thousands of innovative leaders with creative solutions to society's issues that are working in the grassroots. The problem, however, is that the smallest 92% of charities receive just 8% of the funding. So your large charities, they sweep up the majority and very little is left for the small charity sector, meaning they cannot scale their ideas. And this resource deficit is further reflected in volunteer recruitment. So actually 70% of charities with long-term board vacancies are small and micro charities. At the Fore, we have a new way. So we find and fund high potential small charities and social enterprises. These are organisations with an income of less than £500,000, and we offer them unrestricted funding of up to 45,000, and this can be spread across 1 to 3 years. We convene visionary philanthropists, individuals and corporates that have funding and skills to share, and we connect our leaders with the networks they need to thrive. So this includes skills workshops, impact measurement courses, introductions to other charities, and of course, our pro bono support. And this is where our skilled volunteering connections come in. So the funding is, of course, vital, but the training, the skills, and the networks are just as important as the grant in helping our charities thrive. And we know our approach to funding and wraparound support works. So our charities show an incredible income growth over 10 years in comparison to their peers, as you can see on this chart here. Since 2017, we have awarded 653 grants. We've distributed 12.5 million to small charities and social enterprises across the UK, and we've shared over 29,000 hours of skills support and matched over 450 volunteers. So our process breaks down many of the barriers to funding that charities often face, and as a result of this, we fund a really high percentage of charities with diverse leadership. So that's a bit about the Fore, but we can get into what exactly skilled volunteering is now. So you might have come across the terms pro bono work or corporate volunteering. I think pro bono work typically in the legal sector, but these essentially all mean the same thing. So skilled volunteering is where individuals or employees or professionals basically use their occupational skill set to help a charity or a good cause. And there's definitely been a shift from traditional volunteering to skilled volunteering, particularly in the corporate setting, where businesses and individuals want to use their existing skills to support a small charity or a large charity. So, for example, a local accounting firm will now send their tax advisors to help their community charity with financial planning, rather than, for example, planting flowers in their garden. This is really highly impactful and highly needed voluntary work for the sector. Why is this so needed, and specifically why is it so needed for small charities? So as I explained earlier, resources are tight for small charities and they often run on a shoestring budget. So your large kind of household name charities, they can afford to pay for this external expertise. So a bit like how a business would pay for external consultants. But small charities, they simply can't afford this and they largely will rely on the voluntary sector to lend professional skills where they might be lacking within the organisation. It is often the case as well that with the charities we back, they've been founded by individuals that have seen or experienced in the issues that they are addressing. So this could be youth workers or prison officers or nurses or students, and they perhaps haven't gone to business school, or this could be the first time they're leading a team and building an enterprise. These individuals, they have the really innovative, creative ideas and they know the solutions. They're excellent at delivery and will anyway often wear all of the hats within the organization. But having an external volunteer with expertise in a certain area can help provide that vital attention and development in kind of higher level operations. But let's have a quick look at some examples. So the chances are there are various skills that you've probably gained throughout your career that could really benefit a small charity. And I think a really nice place to start with this, if you're a little bit unsure on how this might look, is kind of just reflecting on how these might translate in a small charity setting. So it could be maybe using AI, an AI platform, to put in your kind of career experience and your expertise and asking how this might look in a non-profit voluntary capacity. But I'll go through some examples here. So digital and IT, could you use your CRM system skills to help a charity set up automated feedback loops for their beneficiaries to improve their impact reporting? Marketing and comms, you could spend possibly a few hours a month putting together a charity newsletter and sharing a few posts on Instagram. Research and analysis. So maybe you could use your commercial awareness skills to put together a list of corporates that would be a really good fit for a mental health charity when they're looking to approach partnerships. Or for example, strategy and business planning. So could you sit down with a charity for a day to think about what the next 5 years looks like for them and what new income streams they could explore to achieve this? If your skills are relevant if your skills are relevant in a business setting, they can definitely be put to use to create social impact. But we understand that it comes to, capacity and time constraints can be a caveat here. Many of us are very busy with our day jobs and our personal lives, and finding the time to volunteer alongside this can be quite tricky. But there also might be some individuals on this call who have a lot more free time and looking to perhaps retire or have already retired and pursue more voluntary work. Well, I can tell you that there are plenty of options with different roles requiring different time commitments. It also might be worth checking whether your organisation offers volunteer days. I know a lot of corporates do now, and you can really use these for your advantage here. So just for example, I'm a trustee and my commitments take place during evenings, but I also use the volunteer days that our organisation offers to, for example, one day I shadowed a delivery session and another day I got stuck into some admin work for a charity. So kind of using these alongside my role. But I'll just go through a few different types of roles. So a project volunteer, this volunteer might work with a charity to achieve certain outcomes over a set period of time. And this can really vary depending on how big or small the project is. So just an example could be working with a charity over 4 weeks to help with a, branding refresh and storytelling. And doing this kind of time-bound volunteer project could be quite useful if you have kind of quiet and busy periods over a year. So for example, if you have more time over a summer period, this is where you could really get involved in a specific project with a charity. Next, an advisor to a charity might be called upon on more of an ad hoc basis at certain moments to provide specific expertise on challenges or problems that they're facing. So this could be, for example, an HR professional on hand to provide some advice on a charity's grievance procedure that might need a really quick turnaround. Next, the mentor or coach might work with a charity founder or another senior team member to kind of guide and support them as they lead a team or organization. So this could be an hour a month over the course of a year, for example, to support them with leadership, team culture, public speaking, and confidence building. And lastly, the trustee is a person who holds the ultimate legal responsibility for the governing and directing of a charity. And trustees will usually have expertise in specific areas relevant to the charity. And commitments here are a bit more structured around board meetings and committee groups. So, for example, this could be quarterly board meetings, which would involve reading papers beforehand, and perhaps monthly committee meetings where you could work on a certain area of expertise. So I hope this kind of shows the time commitments and how they vary among different roles, but this could also vary among the need of the charity and also what capacity that they actually have at the moment to manage volunteer support. But I do find what is more typical with a small charity is being more involved in the operations. And this is just a really exciting chance to have direct impact on the organization's operations and strategy. And I think just a kind of quick top tip on how to excel in any of these roles is just really carving out that time to understand what the organization does, its opportunities, its challenges, just literally how things work within the organization before starting your volunteer role. So the fact that you're all here today probably means that you don't need much convincing to take up a volunteer role. But if you are still wondering what is in it for me, the truth is, this is something I've learned from one of my favourite Friends episodes, is there's no such thing as a selfless good deed. Volunteering is a win for the charity and the volunteer too. So it gives you the opportunity to gain new skills or develop existing ones in another setting. So, for example, one of our website design volunteers learned how to set up web pages that are accessible for people with visual impairments during her volunteer role. It also could be a chance to put your experience and your skills to use in a new setting once you've retired or are looking for a change in your career. You can also build your network professionally. So joining a board, for example, is a really good way to connect with individuals from other organizations, or you might even just meet some new friends, which is great. And similarly, working for a small charity gives you the opportunity to work with people that you might not come across in your organization. So the charity sector is filled with ambitious, vibrant professionals from a really diverse set of backgrounds that you can learn a lot from. And lastly, it goes without saying the rewarding feeling of making a difference. So working with a small charity is a fantastic way to see tangible impact from your contribution, and this impact that will, really change the community you live in and you work in. And the last win, so the win-win-win here, is for businesses. All of these skills will be great for your organization's kind of development and competitive advantage. So as I said before, do make sure to check on those volunteer days that you could put to use. So I'll get into the kind of logistics of getting involved a bit later, but for now we'll kind of hand over to our panel discussion to hear some real life examples from our volunteers, and Chimdir will kindly chair this discussion. I'll hand over to you, Chimdir. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Elspeth. And I think that's really well set the tone for us, that we can see the impact in dozens and hundreds when it comes to the Fore's portfolio. But now we want to zoom in specifically on 3 outstanding examples where we hope for you it shows that skilled volunteering doesn't need to be intimidating and can be really accessible. So I have the pleasure to introduce 3 individuals for you who were, as Elspeth said, will quiz, but in a friendly way. We want to hear about their experiences. So first of all, joining us is Lauren. She is a strategic advisor and transformation consultant. Nice little wave there. Thank you. Lauren has over 20 years of experience leading global high impact initiatives. And through the Fore, she's been mentoring a founder and co-CEO of a charity called You Can Flourish. This organization offers mentoring programs for girls who have been dealing with anxiety and low self-esteem. Lauren, we'll come to you in just a moment to hear a little bit more about the backstory and what the experience has entailed for you. We're also joined by George, who has worked in media and advertising for 7 years. I would like to think of him as the pro in digital marketing, driving up growth for businesses. And again, thinking about sort of more shorter term experiences that could evolve. Over the last 6 months, George has been supporting the charity called Street Storage that offers places for people who experience homelessness to store their belongings, with putting their first ever marketing strategy in place. So a game changer for the organization. And finally, looking at our more long-standing roles and opportunities, Ilan is able to represent what it is to be a trustee. He is a senior operations professional with a focus on early stage tech startups. And having been a trustee of Jakari for over 5 years, he's well placed to tell us a lot more about what it entails. And Jakari provides one-to-one tutoring for children across the UK who have English as an additional language and who may be struggling at school. So we've got a breadth of experience here and a breadth of backgrounds. And in fact, I'll start off with Rachel. We'll go in order, Rachel, George, and Elon. I'd really appreciate if you could just share with us, what first of all drew you to what we call skills-based volunteering, and what does it practically look like for you in your role? Rachel, Lauren, over to you.
Thanks, Jem, dear. Well, I've always saw skills as a form of capital, and unfortunately, not all organizations have the same access to that capital. And through my consulting business, I support early stage startup founders and also purpose-led organizations. And so I came into contact with skills-based volunteering through the Fore, through that network, through my consulting. So most of my volunteering is based around advising on strategy, governance, change management, and leadership. And in particular with the Fore, they did a fantastic job of matching me up with my charity leader. And that person has been actually going through a transition where they're actually leaving their charity. So that has been a really interesting challenge to support them through, and it's been incredibly rewarding.
Brilliant, thank you. George, how has your experience been and what drew you to it?
Yeah, it's been great. So I used to do a bit of kind of hands-on marketing support, basically running some like Google Grants accounts for a few charities in an old agency I was at. But I guess I kind of lacked a bit of direction on how to get involved in a more like tangible way, I suppose. And then actually coincidentally, so my girlfriend worked with the Fore. She was at BlackRock at the time, and I've seen her on the call. I think she's eating her lunch at the minute. But I used to just overhear calls between her and I think it was you, Elspeth. And then I ended up joining a panel just like this, and about mentoring and getting involved in that way. And yeah, since then you guys matched me with Street Storage, and it's been incredibly rewarding so far. So I basically work with their marketing lead. It's a marketing team of one, and we work on everything from their kind of comms to some of their partner businesses that they work with, to now, like you said, fleshing out that full kind of marketing strategy for the year. And I got to go to their big brand strategy day as well, which I'm sure I'll yap on about later on. But yeah, it's been really rewarding so far.
Brilliant. And we love the connections with the Fore. Elon, tell us what your experience has been like.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chimdia, and thanks, Elspeth. Amazing intro. And I think you've shined an amazing light on the Fore, which I have a fantastic relationship with so far. So I come from California, actually Silicon Valley startups, which is a very privileged environment, as you might know. I'm very passionate about a bunch of issues, women and board seats, Black Lives Matters, things that can come and go in the kind of the nomenclature of some people's day-to-day experience, but they never leave us. And so I was always looking for ways to make impacts even in micro ways and maybe more systemic ways. I started by getting involved with one-to-one tutoring and mentoring of people from disadvantaged backgrounds or underrepresented backgrounds. And then realized exactly what Elspeth was talking about earlier. It was like, wow, I've got a lot of skills that are very appreciated in my day-to-day job. How could I use those in a more systemic fashion to try and have even higher and a larger impact on people or issues that I care about? So day to day, I'm a COO in early stage tech startup, and I've seen a lot of things. I joined Jakari 5 years ago as a board member. I'm a bit of a generalist, and so I think I've been able to just do what I do in my day job, which is try and ask good questions and bring the best out of others around me. It's not my ideas, it's just trying to add structure where I can. If I don't understand something, I'll be curious and dig in and make sure everyone is comfortable with what's going on. So I do everything from trying to help us like just establish really sound and thoughtful strategies from other people's great ideas, and then have we packaged it well so that it's very, very clear and understandable for everyone? Can we use this for the next couple of years to hang all of our great initiatives off of and just have more clarity and flow through the organization? To the people side that I'm extraordinarily passionate about, like really making sure that people on the team feel fantastic. So I was, whenever I can, just calling them out by name or thanking them or just bringing as much personal side to it as possible, the great practices of good organizations of praise and recognition, and trying to just imbue things that I think lead to really great experiences for team members and employees. And then it transcends all the way to like, at times I'll get really in the minutia, and if there's a problem and the team needs help, I'll jump in. It doesn't happen day to day, month to month usually. So like right now it's quarterly board meetings, level participation, and there wasn't a lot between the last two board meetings. But there was one thing that came up last year where I got quite deep and started working directly with someone. And it's because it's not a huge team. Like the whole team's around 10 people. And they could benefit from someone who's seen a few things like I have. And I could just go in with empathy, ask some good questions, and help us navigate a really, hopefully, humane and productive way forward on just what was an internal issue.
And we can see here how a trustee role can be really wide-ranging, and there's so much you can bring to the table there. Just for some contrast, George, I think it'd be helpful to hear a little bit more about what sort of a more informal, perhaps, advisory role would look like versus that formal role of a trusteeship. And I guess as well, what has been some of the more interesting elements of that you've had to sort of figure out and navigate along the way as you define that role for you?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I guess probably I imagine the difference is that so me and Lillian, the person at Street Storage, we do bi-weekly calls every Friday for an hour, well, every other Friday for an hour. And they really can take, completely different shape week on week. It's not, we don't necessarily have as clear an agenda maybe going into it as you might do in maybe a more formal role. But it really is like, what's causing her the most grief at the minute that I can help with? And a lot of the time it's maybe just kind of, reshaping some of, or like just being a sounding board for her ideas, I guess, giving her the kind of frameworks to work within. I'd say that the most interesting part so far, though, was it was going to the strategy day, which was basically I had a chance to meet all their employees, all the network of volunteers, their trustees, and really just kind of get under the skin of what makes this charity tick, what are their values, and then from my perspective, being able to look at that from a marketing lens and think, okay, how do we translate those values into a kind of customer first, donor first mindset? So yeah, I'd say it really it varies so much. Sometimes we're like just talking through how best to write emails and things like that. So it really varies. But yeah, it's always been, I hope it's been valuable basically to be able to put that marketing lens on all those different challenges.
Nice, thank you. And it's also helpful to hear how you both came to an agreement on what works for you and that setup. I think something that it really does remind me of is in a mentorship relationships as well. There's also that sort of how does this work for both parties too, and being able to define that. I think Lauren, you've had to sort of figure out for this set period of time as the CEO of You Can Flourish step down from her role of how you can best navigate that experience together. How as well, in I guess a short space of time, do you build trust with, a professional, a senior professional of a charity, and how did you go about that initial stages of the mentorship relationship?
Lots of listening and not assuming I have any answers. I before I started my own consultancy, I was at Google for 10 years and then deep in advertising for a really long time. And so I come from a background of hardcore commercialization, very profit driven, and that's the lens under which I'd seen the world. So when I started working in the charity sector, I've had to be very conscious of the fact that the incentives, the closeness that people feel to their work is quite different compared to what there is in the sort of the normal business world. So really taking the time to listen and not assuming that I have the answers, and really giving her the space to actually voice a lot of the concerns and things that she has, without getting any judgment or solutions from me necessarily. So charity leaders are under all sorts of different pressures, and there's a lot of constraints under which they have to operate. And so just being able to have someone that they can turn to, that can give them that space, is really, really valuable for them.
And in fact, if you could sort of expand further, and I'll come to the other speakers as well on this, like what did then that look like for you in terms of a time commitment, and how did you balance that alongside your own personal and professional priorities?
Yeah, so in the very first conversation, we had a really good chat about what she was aiming to get from this relationship, what I was aiming to get from it, and what would work for the two of us on how we wanted to work together. So we were really straight up with each other about what we were looking for, and that's resulted in I spend an hour a month with her. But if she needs me, because she is going through a huge transition, like total life-changing transition. She was the leader of her charity for 10 years. So if she needs me, she'll shoot me an email. So after New Year's, I got an email. So, and I'm very, very open to that because, as a mentor, the relationship, I feel, is a little bit more closer. Doesn't have to be, but for the way that we're working together, it is, and I'm there to support her.
Nice, thank you. George, similarly for you, these sort of fortnightly meetings, how has that slotted in with your day job? I know Elspeth mentioned that some organizations offer sort of volunteering time. Has that been during work hours or during your own personal hours?
Yeah, so we get 2 volunteer days, as I think probably a lot of organisations do. But also, I mean, they were criminally underused. Again, like I imagine they are for a lot of organisations. So I was able to actually, properly use one of those for the strategy day. But aside from that, similar to Lauren, I suppose, we had a lot of upfront conversations around how much time realistically can I commit. We do our 1 hour calls during work hours and then make up an hour here or there. It's a Friday afternoon, so it's different clock anyway. But yeah, I suppose similarly, I'm always at the end of an email if needed, and Street Storage have been super flexible. That when there are times when I've been super busy, which always comes in peaks and troughs, they're very accommodating. I can always we push back for another week, that kind of thing. But I think with all these things, it's just about being fair to both parties, being very upfront about what your time commitment is, and ideally trying to look ahead and think when those busy times are going to be, just so that no one's left in the lurch.
Yeah, and I can really imagine that, particularly over like longer term roles where there are the intensive moments within the organizations. Perhaps an organization is going through organizational change, or say even redundancies are being made. These are sort of life cycles within an organization that can ask and demand for more attention or time commitment. Elon, I know you've mentioned you've had those intensive periods, and I don't know, could you be quite frank about how you've handled that alongside your work and other commitments, and maybe any tips you're able to share with others too in your trustee role?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a little lucky in that I tend to be in organizations that are a bit flexible. We don't measure hours, and even annual leave. We have flexible policy, so we're a little unique like that. We try and just goal people on impact and output, and then if you're doing that, you get to control your life. We don't want to control, we don't like micromanaging. So no one's micromanaging my schedule and time either. People know I'm doing this because I happen to have mentioned I'm on a very cool panel to help get more people into skilled volunteering. But there's no accountability, no one watching over me. So it's more just, yeah, just like what George was saying. It's just trying to manage myself and my own time and look around what's happening. I can take calls during the day. It's not a problem. I have meetings still with Jakari during the day sometimes. It's not an issue for me personally. And then we have the quarterly board meetings are in the evening. That is very helpful. I would say most of it, almost everything has been remote for me, which has been very helpful. I don't live in the same town where we are most active. So for folks thinking about the remote thing, like just have the conversation, with the teams that you're interested in. They may be fine with even 100% remote. You never know. It's not right in all circumstances, but you can explore that. So yeah, just using some degree of flexibility has helped me.
I think that's definitely a blessing, and I think it will also, for some of us who have the more classic 9 to 5 roles where perhaps we also don't have the dedicated volunteer hours. Maybe it's something for us to figure out how we can advocate to our managers, showing how there's professional development as well going on, which in turn benefits the organization and our teams. And I think where Elspeth really highlighted earlier about the triple win is something that I also want to sort of figure out a little bit more from all of your experiences. Feel free to sort of answer this in the way that most resonates with you, but perhaps are there anything that has surprised you about the charity sector, having stepped into these roles, or in fact perhaps some misconceptions that you want to debunk that you wish more people knew? I'll open it up to either three of you to kick off for us on what comes to mind. Any surprises or misconceptions we need to clarify?
I'm happy to. Oh, I don't mind going with
George,
this one.
go for it.
Yeah, so I guess probably one misconception, I suppose, would be, with these small organizations, like we know they're super purpose driven. They've got, a high kind of high narrow focus, I suppose. But then maybe the misconception would be that they lack the resources to drive, like, substantial change, I suppose, like big change. But actually going into street storage and seeing that, this is a small charity, and I think it's almost because they don't have that. Obviously, they've got the Fore's funding, which is brilliant, but they don't have, this kind of wealth of funding to lean on, means that they have to be super targeted, and then as a result, really focused on their one specific niche, which I think then as a volunteer makes the work that we're able to do a bit more tangible, because we can actually really see, like, the time has gone in, and then you see the output from it. So yeah, I guess probably that's the misconception. I think actually the fact that they're small means that they can have that kind of bigger impact on their kind of key focus.
Lauren, how does that compare with what you had in mind?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people might think that small means simple, but small charities are operating in really complex environments, trying to achieve really amazing things with very limited resources. So that makes them very creative and very inspiring, to be honest. I often come away from my charity work feeling really inadequate. So thinking about how I could be adding more impact into the world to make up for the debt that I had with all the advertising work that I've done in my career. So yeah, they're very, very creative, very driven, very focused, and it does mean that they can have a lot of impact in their local area, which is just so inspiring.
Yeah, I could say a couple quick words. I agree on. I was really impressed with the quality and of the
Burgers wish
process
BBC
there
news.
too.
Oscar, we are all wishing you well. We're back soon from Salford, but now on BBC One, it's time
Sorry,
to
if
join our colleagues with the news
Sue
wherever you
Halfpenny
are.
could mute for a moment, please.
Thanks, Nina.
That was an advert break for us there.
There you go.
Please do continue.
I think so. The quality of operation is just phenomenal. Like for example, their recruiting process was just really impressive. I was expecting to go in and add a lot of value there, to be honest, because I've got a lot of experience on that side, and it was really good, fantastic structured interviewing and structured approach to talent that helps you hire more diverse teams as well, for the record. So that was super impressive. Another surprising thing was, or something that made me not nervous, but a tiny bit nervous about being a trustee was, what are the legal implications? What if I do something wrong? What if I break something? I don't know all the rules. I've never been a trustee before. And it's just not that pressure. Like, it's not hard to figure out. You've got the backing of the team around you. The head of the charity was giving me resources, and it's easy to read about. So that quickly went away. And yeah, and I want to echo the selfish part is like, it's real, like I've gotten so much out of it personally. Like there's something very selfish that I know I recognize myself as. I like that I can say I've executed at board level now. It's something I was interested and keen for in my own career. And like, I'm so proud of that. And I'm so proud that I'm making that impact with Jacari and in this sector. And then there's just something on a personal level that's almost like immeasurable and intangible, which is just like, how do we want to hold ourselves and walk around this planet, and like, are we going to stay in our silos forever and just try and make some money and pay the bills or whatever? Or do we want to zoom out and think and consider whether we're a part of something bigger? And I'm sure a lot of people on this call have fantastic roles and are doing things already. But yeah, if you're looking to make more impact, I strongly encourage these routes. Yeah.
I love that. A rallying call to action for all of us on the call. Ilan, I think I want to rewind a bit back to your sort of nervousness that you had of stepping into a trustee role. Would you have some tips for people who are maybe just looking into that for the first time? Maybe they've heard of board or non-executive directors in the private sector, but unsure of how they can translate that, what that means for them when looking for a non-executive role in the charity sector.
Yeah, definitely. Well, another thing I was nervous of was like, am I good enough? And I do want to dispel that a lot. Is like, I can't speak to what it's like to be on a board in the private sector, but like, it's just not as scary as I thought it would be. Your skills are fantastic. Whatever you've done, I'm sure you're great at it. Bet on yourself. Undoubtedly, there's a charity. If you want to make board level and trustee level impact, just go for it. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter. We have some very young people with fewer years of experience on our board. We've had that at Jacari, and because people play different roles, sometimes they represent certain areas, sometimes they perform certain tasks, and that is all good. Like, charities, especially the ones that the Fore supports, like they're smaller, as you've just heard. Like, it's all hands on deck. Like, we can use so many great people out there. It doesn't. Like, we haven't really cared how big our board was, like, it's flexed in size even, and that's totally fine. So don't undersell yourself. You're fantastic. I'm sure you can make an impact somewhere. Just find the right group and just be honest about what you want to bring and can bring, and see if they're into it. So don't undersell yourself there. And then on like the more legal nervousness stuff, yeah, it's just very easy. There's documents on it. I forget what's called, the Charity Association, the regulators amongst charities. There's very clear rules and stuff around what our accountabilities are. It's not hard. It doesn't take long to. You can even ask AI; it'll summarize it very quickly for you. You know what the top three things you really want to think about as you're whether it's safeguarding or other types of accountabilities. It's very easy to learn. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. Hopefully that's reassuring for others as well. Before we open up for some more questions, George and Lauren, I want to see if you had some tips similarly, whether it's around how you communicate why you're suitable when you were, stepping into these roles, for people who are on the search, what maybe resources did you use, or even just some give it a go. How have you worked with the Fore? I'm open on any of your tips or practical advice for us.
You can go, Lauren.
Yeah.
So okay, you're gonna go first, George. I would say one of the things that is really, I think, is important when you're working in this sector is when you're looking at that, the organization that you're being matched with, the people that you're being matched with, that it's a cause that you care about as well. It has been so much more meaningful and impactful when it's something I also feel passionate about. So that would be one of the tips, is when you're looking for that opportunity, is to when it means something to you, it just has so much more depth to the volunteering.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I suppose on top of that, my tip, particularly for getting involved as kind of a project volunteer, that type of thing, is to properly immerse yourself in the business as much as you can, because you might have been matched for this one specific project, but actually, like, we have so many transferable skills that we would have all built up in our various roles, and actually some of these skills, we don't know the challenges that the charity is facing yet, that we can actually then help with. So yeah, I think go into it super open-minded, that it might have one shape and then take a completely different shape. But I think that's probably like where all the biggest ideas come from, is the stuff that we least expect, isn't it?
Brilliant. Thank you, all three of you. It's great to hear the pleasant surprises, some of the things that you've have challenged with along the way, but ultimately the win-win-win that has come out of it. And I've really appreciated all three of you have approached your roles and opportunities with such openness to learn and hear about others' ideas and experiences. And so I think that's sort of the mindset that we really want to encourage as well at the Fore.
Yes, thank you, Chindia, and obviously to all of our panelists and the audience for your questions as well. I'm just going to quickly finish off here by giving you the kind of practical guidance of how you can get involved through the Fore. There are many skilled volunteering services out there, as Lauren has also mentioned. So, for example, even Reach Volunteering, which we definitely recommend you to use. But if you're interested in what sets us apart, well, working with the Fore, you gain access to over 500 small charities and social enterprises that have actually been through our due diligence process and been identified as having exceptional leadership, innovative ideas and cost-effective solutions. So volunteering your skills of a charity that has been backed by the Fore gives you the chance to meet the rising stars of the sector and be part of their impact. Over 50% of the charities funded in our pilot are now operating nationally, so you could be part of what helps the next one get there. But you'll not only have access to the charities we back, also organisations from our wider network, and this gives you a range of choice and gives you the opportunity, as Lauren said, to be picky, be selective in what causes you'd like to support, and what communities you'd like to get involved with. But let's go on to how you can actually get involved. So sign up to our Pro Bono network if you've not done so already. We have just developed a really cool new service to our network where you'll receive monthly emails with opportunities from charities and social enterprises that match your skills and expertise. So Chimdia will just pop this in the link now so you can do the very short sign up form. So the skills that you note on your application will be matched with the available roles from our charities and sent through each month in a list format, highlighting the charity, the role, and the time commitment. You can have a scroll through these, click through to find out more, and read their full requests and job descriptions. And if you're interested in a role, you can complete a short expression of interest form and just share with us a little more background in relation to your role. And one of us will basically introduce you to a representative of the charity to book in that initial call to discuss the opportunity, check it aligns from a skills and capacity standpoint before taking things forward. And as I just mentioned before, this is where you really want to find that spark between the charity leader before kind of taking things forward. And it's completely fine if it's not for you. Don't worry at all. You can find another opportunity. And you'll receive a few forms along the way as well, just to check in on how things are doing and give you the chance to tell us if you need any more support with anything. So please do sign up. But this is the first step. Most importantly, keep an eye on the emails that are coming through. Take the time each month to please just read through and have a look to see what roles you might find interesting and just kind of give it a go. We also have our full set of opportunities on our skilled volunteering directory, which Cynthia will pop in the chat now. So here you can filter by sector, location, and skills that they need to really find something that meets what you're looking for. And this is where you can also filter by charities that we've either backed or that have applied for funding or been endorsed by a member of the team during the application process. And if you come across an opportunity here that your colleague or your friend might be excellent for, please do share it with them. So these are our 2 call to actions to sign up to the network and keep an eye on our skilled volunteering directory. That's everything from me. Thank you all so much, and a massive thank you to our panelists for your wonderful contribution and your insights. And I think, just to iterate what Inan said, it's not as scary as you think. Bet on yourself and just go for it. Sign up to an opportunity. We'll get you connected and just give it a go. Yeah, thank you all for coming. We'll